For less than a week, and already multiple classes have been dismissed in Windsor, Essex. Several cohorts in both the Catholic and the public school boards have been sent home due to exposure to positive COVID-19 cases. Our Jacob Barker has been following the story, and he joins me now live from outside Queen Victoria Public School. That's one of the schools affected. Jacob, how are parents and students feeling today?
Well, it definitely is causing some concern. It's that familiar feeling of uncertainty, of not knowing whether or not your child will be in school from one day to the next. A lot of families don't have a backup plan, and they're left scrambling to figure out what to do if their child is kept at home. And it didn't take long for the numbers of cases to start ticking up in schools after the school year started. Since the first day of school last Tuesday, we've seen cases in 7 schools among students in the Catholic District School Board, and while most of them are single student cases, there is one school that has 2 students and 1 staff member with positive cases. In total, there's more than 300 students that are being kept home from school. Meanwhile, the public school board had its first 2 confirmed cases on Thursday of last week. Since then, there's been 6 more schools, and each one involves a single student with a case. Now, the public school board does not say how many students are affected by those cases, how many students are being kept at home, but I did speak with some parents and some students about how they feel seeing these cases in the schools.
Yeah, I feel safe because we have many rules to keep, like to learn, and the new class, every class you have, the teachers kind of remind you of the rules. So I'm safe with that because the teachers are doing their best to explain to the students about the rules every day.
Well, if it's spreading that fastly in other schools, you kind of have to start worrying, like, will it start spreading to my school? Because a lot of kids are going to parks, playing with other kids, so you kind of have to start worrying, or is it going to start spreading to other schools?
Yeah, I think we're going to go back home. There's going to be another lockdown.
Okay. What do you think about that if there were?
I mean, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
As long as there's Google Classroom.
What would you do if they were kept home?
She'd obviously have to do online learning. She struggles in that department, but we'll figure that out. She's more of a hands-on learner, so again, I just hope they don't shut the schools down.
Yeah.
Now, Jacob, with all the classes being dismissed, is there any possibility that schools are going to go back to online learning from home?
Well, Katerina, that's not being ruled out. As you know, last year it was our health unit that took that step to keep students at home, even when the province wasn't doing the same. They did that earlier than the rest of the province last year. So today, the interim medical health officer for Windsor, Essex, took a seat at the meeting in the morning, and he was asked if he would take that step of taking students out of school again.
It's particularly important as a public health priority to allow young people to go to school and get instruction, getting instruction from their teachers. And that would be, from my perspective, an important public health goal. We already have experience from having to discontinue in-person learning in previous parts of the pandemic, but it's very hard to predict the future. And it's the one thing we know about the pandemic is we don't really know what the future might hold. But if case counts don't get under control and the disease is not controlled well, then that may be one further group of measures that could be considered.
Now, for the parents of kids at school right now, the medical health unit is telling parents to monitor their children for any sort of symptoms of illness every morning, and if they're showing any signs, to keep them at home for the day. And as for the parents of students in those cohorts that are being kept at home, they are being told to not to do anything unless they hear otherwise from the health unit. And as far as cases go, just before going to air, I can tell you we had reports of new cases at the Catholic School Board. They dismissed 2 more classes at St. Anne's Catholic High School in Lakeshore due to 1 more confirmed case. Katerina.
Thanks for this, Jacob. The CBC's Jacob Barker live tonight. Meanwhile, over the last 3 days, the health unit says we've seen 173 new COVID-19 cases. That means that there are 515 active cases, about 60% involving variants of concern. 2 women have died, 1 in their 70s, the other in their 80s. There are also 20 ongoing outbreaks. The health unit also issued a possible exposure notice for the Croatia Sport Club in Windsor. Anyone who visited the facility September 4th is advised to get a COVID-19 test and monitor for symptoms. Live music is back. Venues hosting bands say they're making it work with new restrictions for indoor settings. But booking shows is getting tough when things change so rapidly.
So many of the bar owners have gotten together. We have groups. We talk to each other on a weekly basis. And we're calling each other up now and saying, okay, can you help me with this? Or, do you have any information on this? And whoever has the information hands it out to everybody else so that A, we're all on the same playing field, but B, the bars that are acting responsibly are helping to protect each other. Because, our customers, they come here, they might go to the next bar. We want to make sure they're as safe there as they are here.
We're mostly booked up. We're October into November.
Yeah.
It's really tough to go full booking because you're still on that edge of, are we going to get shut down again?
You do have a dance floor you can't use.
Yes.
How does that feel?
There's a lot of chair dancing.
Yeah,
you get a lot of this, right? But again, everyone's been really good about it because no one wants to see us shut down or any other establishment shut down. So everyone's been really good about it.
Right now, we're supposed to do this vaccine passport on the 22nd of September. That's 10 days away. We have 0 guidelines, nothing. We don't know what people are supposed to show us to get in. We have 0 idea about the specifics. Does it mean when the passport comes in, our capacities go back to 100%? Does it mean that we go back to 2? There's nothing. It's 10 days away. How do people staff right now? It's really unbelievably inconsiderate.
Demonstrations were planned for locations in all 10 provinces today to protest against measures put in place to fight COVID-19. Ahead of the anti-vaccine protests, organizers had described them as silent vigils, with most gathering outside hospitals. Politicians and healthcare organizations were quick to criticize today's demonstrations, calling them, quote, completely unacceptable and unfair to healthcare workers and patients. Protesters say vaccinations should be a choice and not mandatory. Windsor is not included in the planned protests, but the health unit did offer a reaction.
People have certainly a right to speak how they feel. It's disheartening for us in public health, to see resistance relative to, keeping the community safe and doing, what's in the best interest of the community and community health.
Migrant workers in Leamington are coming together to form a band and play some classic Mexican hits. The group of 14 players has been practicing for nearly a year, and last night was their first big show at Seacliff Amphitheatre. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa was in the crowd, and she spoke with the band and found out that there's a lot more to it than the music.
That's Arturo Almanza playing his first big Canadian show. The thrill and excitement of live music is something he's familiar with. He used to play music back home in Mexico and never thought he'd get the chance to publicly play here. During the day, he and many of his Latin power band members work in nearby greenhouses. After 12-hour days, they come together to play. The music keeps their minds busy.
I joined because it brings me a lot of joy, and it also felt in not only just being on the farm and maybe having some negative or difficult thoughts.
Decidimos ser parte de este proyecto.
During the long hours that we have at work, many of us were starting to feel the anxiety and the distance of being away from loved ones. Unfortunately, some of the guys that we know were having issues with depression, or sometimes they were having addiction problems. So for us, this is a way of supporting each other.
Me uní porque
It helps us step away from our problems, from the stress, just from work. It allows us just to concentrate on something positive like music.
Some haven't seen their family in nearly 2 years. Others have missed out on seeing their kids grow up. This and the long workdays make living here difficult. But the music is a piece of home that unites them. What began as a two-man band at the end of last year quickly turned into 14.
Feeling so proud for singing this song for everybody.
This is when they start doing that for me, see the process is unbelievable how they change. Now they are more happy, they're exciting. Now they happy to play right now today.
Many of them have played music since they were young, performing in bands back home. Others are just learning.
It feels amazing. It's just thrilling. There's nothing that I can compare to it now, to be there and just to feel the energy.
The band just wants to come together, play music, and share some happiness. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Leamington.
Thoughts and prayers of support are pouring in from all over the world for Paralympic medalist Danielle Campo. The 36-year-old former world-class swimmer has been on life support since last week due to complications after giving birth. CBC's Del Molnar has more.
And Canadians appear to be taking notice.
I have about 55 emails from people I don't know every day.
Danielle Campo has always been a tough competitor. She is now fighting for her life in a London hospital, in critical condition, suffering from septic shock, complications after a C-section on August 17th. Now her church community, her family, her friends, Paralympians and firefighters from across Canada and around the world are going online to offer support and prayers. Her mother says the outpouring has been unbelievable.
It is this movement of prayer. I asked when she first got sick to pray for her, and it's just, it's a movement of prayer and lighting candles so that Danielle knows the light of the community is waiting for her to come back.
Campo says her daughter's condition has improved a little. Other friends and family are also thankful for the support.
We're very humbled by it. It's very encouraging to know that the community can get together and lift up their spirits, and we need a miracle.
Dave Hunter from Drive magazine has been her friend for 20 years. The news of her complications hit him hard.
I honestly, I was almost sick to my stomach, to be honest. It was gut-wrenching, to say the least. And again, it was, as a father of a few kids, I can appreciate, I guess, the fear that would go in through a parent's mind.
Campo is a member of the Good Shepherd Catholic Church in Lakeshore. Parishioners are banding together to support her as well.
And so everybody naturally, I think, responded immediately of knowing just that we want to let her know that we're there to support her now in a time when she needs that support and inspiration as well. And to, in the spiritual life, to know that however God uses our prayers and stuff, that it's an expression of our love for her.
Colleen Campos says neither her daughter's neuromuscular disorder, which she's had since childhood, nor recent new treatments for that disorder had anything to do with her condition now. The family has set up a crowdfunding page to help with expenses. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Lakeshore.
The Ford government has been keeping a close eye on public opinion about its handling of the pandemic. CBC News obtained copies of polling commissioned by the government, focused entirely on COVID-19. CBC's Mike Crawley has the exclusive story.
As COVID-19 gripped Ontario last year, the Ford government was commissioning opinion polls. Dozens of questions posed to hundreds of Ontarians nearly every week since the pandemic began. The pollsters canvassed public opinion about the government's performance, but also about lockdowns, mask wearing, vaccinations, and the fear of contracting the virus.
It's wide-ranging. There's a lot in there. You can tell that they
are paying close attention to how the public feels about the various measures that they're taking through the COVID pandemic and how much confidence they have in those decisions, which I think is a good thing.
The results of the government's own polling suggest support for its handling of the pandemic dwindled as the second wave grew. Then, after province-wide lockdown measures kicked in last Boxing Day, 60% of poll respondents said the government had not moved quickly enough to stop the spread of COVID-19. The NDP leader says a pandemic is not the time for polling.
Governments shouldn't be spending their time and resources on, on politics and on public opinion as to how they're doing.
But political scientist Sam Andre disagrees.
You want to make sure that you understand where the public's mood is at because controlling the pandemic is so dependent on the public's behavior.
Premier Doug Ford's spokesperson says all governments use polling to help understand public opinion on important issues. Your tax dollars paid for the weekly surveys. Ford's spokesperson declined to say how much it all cost. Queen's Park was supposed to resume sitting today, but the Premier prorogued the legislature until early October, and that means Ford and his ministers will not have to face opposition questions about COVID-19 or anything else for another 3 weeks. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
With just a week left, polls are pointing to a tight race between the two frontrunners. And the parties trailing the Liberals and Conservatives in the polls are pushing hard to gain seats. Marina von Stackelberg reports.
Some Canadians know who they're voting for, and many did just that at this weekend's advanced polls.
It's really convenient, it's really safe, everybody's far apart, so I really like it.
CBC's poll tracker now shows the Liberals and Conservatives in a dead heat. For the first time in more than 2 weeks, the Liberals have moved ahead in national support, but only by a hair. The NDP remains in third. The People's Party of Canada continues its rise, now in fourth place, just ahead of the Bloc Québécois. PPC polling today at 6.5% support, which could pull votes away from the Conservatives, who today went after the Liberals with a new attack ad.
Fact. Justin Trudeau promised there wouldn't be a pandemic election.
And on the campaign trail, instead of talking about his plan for childcare, Conservative leader Erin O'Toole talked about Trudeau.
We are in a $600 million election only because Mr. Trudeau thought he could use this crisis for his own political advantage.
The Liberals with their own plan of attack today, hitting back at O'Toole.
This is an AR-15 rifle. It was designed to kill people. Erin O'Toole promised the gun lobby that he would legalize this and 1,500 other assault weapons.
Trudeau defending his party's attack on the Conservatives.
I'm not inventing Mr. O'Toole's position on restoring rights for people to own military-style assault weapons. It's on page 90 of his platform.
The NDP also after the Liberal leader, accusing Trudeau of failing to end boil water advisories on First Nations. Jagmeet Singh committing money, but with no details on what he'd do differently.
We're committing whatever it takes. There is no limit when it comes to making sure people have clean drinking water for me.
Advanced polls close tonight at 9 o'clock. Elections Canada says nearly 1 million Canadians have already applied to vote by mail. The deadline to request one of those ballots is tomorrow. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
A live look there, some fickle weather today, and when we come back, Colette Kennedy will have our full weather week look. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy joins us now for weather. Colette, this afternoon we had like a moment of really ominous weather for about half an hour, and then it just disappeared, it seemed.
Yeah, there were some really strong storms, Katarina, that were, they developed in Michigan and then kind of pushed into southwestern Ontario. The airport reported the thunderstorm right around 3 o'clock there, but they were moving so fast. So we actually even had some watches and warnings that went into play after there was a statement, and they've continued to just be tracking so fast to the east away towards the Niagara region. But the thing is, they're kind of the introduction to a new air mass that's moved in, so along the warm front. And tomorrow, late day, the cold front will be coming through. And when that does, that's when we have the risk of getting into some active weather. So we actually have a higher risk for some severe weather as we look into Tuesday later in the day. Heavy rain and strong winds would be the biggest component I'd be concerned about, but there is the risk of some small hail and even isolated tornadoes. So we're going to be watching that really carefully for you on Tuesday. Current temperatures, though, Windsor's at 23. You can see Chatham-Kent at 28. And kind of as we move eastward, the same sort of thing where there's still some low 20s on the north side of Lake Ontario, but around the Niagara region there, those temperatures came down. There's that batch of heavy rain. Look how quickly it moved through. And there were some heavy downpours there and some strong winds, but they were tracking, that cluster was really tracking eastward at about 80, almost 80 kilometers an hour. So it's moved through and really made some haste. Still a few showers along that kind of warm front as it waffles through. And so we could have a few in the overnight hours, a greater chance of that around Sarnia than say in the Windsor area, but still we could have a few. This is what happens tomorrow though. So this is late in the afternoon, still not quite to us. And then some of those storms pushing through between that corridor of about 5, 6 o'clock to about 8 o'clock. So that's where we'll be watching for the active weather. Clearing out slowly on Wednesday. So still some cloud cover early in the day on Wednesday, and then we'll get out of it and see some cooler air move in. But it's not cool tomorrow into that warm sector. Look at this, 30 degrees, humidity continuing to pop up, close to 40 for the humidex value. There's that, something more refreshing that'll come in on Wednesday.
Yeah, it feels like a bit of a balance between like super hot, but then also cozy weather. It's kind of back and forth, up and down.
Yes, it's hard. These spring and fall, they can't make up their mind as they come in and out like that. Yep.
Exactly. Thanks so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
And when we come back, a cat rescue mission that you are not going to want to miss. Stay with us. It's been a very difficult few years for Britney Spears, but today it's something to celebrate.
Look at that. You like it?
Yeah! The pop singer announced her engagement to longtime boyfriend Sam Asghari on Instagram. During the trial to end her conservatorship, Spears spoke of wanting to marry and have children with Asghari. Legally, she can marry, but the conservatorship must approve it first. The 4-carat diamond ring is engraved with the word lioness, which is Asghari's nickname for Spears. And you've probably seen dramatic videos of fans catching a ball at sports stadiums, but probably not catching a cat. The crowd at a weekend university football game in Miami watched anxiously as the cat dangled from an upper deck. Fans below used a U.S. flag as an improvised net to catch the animal when it tumbled down and triumphantly held the cat aloft after it landed safely, like a scene from The Lion King. Love a good rescue story. That is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor, and we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The Rick Mercer Report is up next. Have a great night.